بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغى وتمتعه فيها طويلا. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dua for this day of the sacred month of Ramadan. Allahumma waffir haddi fihi min al-nawafil. Allah, in this month, intensify my share in its nawafil, the prayers. Wa akrimni fihi bi ihdar al-masail, and dignify me by learning the issues. Now what these issues are, inshallah, we'll talk about that. وَقَرِّبْ فِيهِ وَسِيلَتِي إِلَيْكَ مِنْ بَيْنِ الْوَسَائِلِ, and make closer my means to you from among the means. يَا مَنْ لَا يَشْغَلُهُ إِلْحَاحُ الْمُلِحِينَ, O he who is not occupied by the insisting of the beseechers. Now the first part of this dua talked about the nawafil. Allah, give me tawfiq, grant me the opportunity to perform the nawafil. Nawafil are the mustahab prayers. Hadith says that from these nawafil, the wajib are 17 rakat, Fajr 2, Zohr, Asr 4 and 4, Maghrib 3 and Isha 4. So altogether these are 17 rakat. Nawafil are 34. You've got a nafila for the Fajr, which is offered before the Fajr prayers, and then 8 nawafil for Zohr to be offered after the time for Zohr has entered and before you say your Zohr prayers. And once you've done that and before you say your Asr prayers, you've got 8 rak'at nafila, nawafil for the Asr prayers. And then Maghrib, it has 4 to be offered after the Maghrib prayers, and Isha has 2 to be offered after the Isha prayers, to be offered in the sitting posture. And then there is an 11 rak'at, the night prayers. So altogether it is 34 rak'at. So 17 are wajib, 34 are mustahab. Hadith says that if you want to be concrete with your wajib prayers, that you don't miss any of them at any point, so be punctual with offering more and more nawafil. The more nawafil you offer, it's like these shock absorbers you have in your car. Those shock absorbers, they keep you safe, the car is safe. So here the nawafil, they act as the shock absorbers to keep your wajib prayers safe. So 34 nawafil every day except Friday. On Friday we've got more. On Friday we've got 46 nawafil. And the way how you offer these, only for the Zohar you've got 20 nawafil which are offered on Friday. When the sun rises, after the sun rises and it's 6 rak'at you offer, and then when the sun has come to the middle of the sky, it's slightly before Zohar, there you offer another 6. And when it's noon, Zohar Shar'i, at that time you offer 2. And once you've said your Jummah prayers or the Zohar prayers, Jummah prayers, then after that you offer another 6. So here on Jummah you've got 12 extra. That is in total these are 20. But the nawafil that we have for Zohar, there are 8. If you deduct that from here, it leaves with 12. So 12 plus 34 altogether on Friday we have 46 nawafil. So because Thursday and Friday it's an intense day of worship, and all these observances they intensify on these 2 days. So nawafil are important. We have to give importance to them, especially after a certain age we have passed. We must increase in the nawafil. Worship has to increase the closer we get towards our grave and akhirah. Nawafil has to be increased, prayers should increase, quality of prayers has to improve. All these things that are there which we have to give importance to, and we learn them from the sacred month of Ramadan. And then it says that وَوَفِّرْ حَظِّي فِيهِ مِنَ النَّوَافِلِ, Allah increase my share in all of these nawafil. Now these tawfiqat to do nafila prayers in general, then they are the best of actions. And to perform these best of actions, you need tawfiq. Tawfiq is also given by Allah. If He gives us the opportunity, the tawfiq, then we tend to say that every mustahab is like that. Recitation of Quran, that we all get together and recite, all these are tawfiqat that He avails, He blesses, He gives, and we are smart enough in attracting them, and we sit and we recite. So these are tawfiqat that are given by Allah, and smart are those who attract and avail and get the best out of it. So nawafil are one of the tawfiqat that we ask Allah on this day. Now the other thing that we have is وَأَكْرِمْنِي فِيهِ بِإِحْضَارِ الْمَسَائِلِ. Allah dignify me by learning the issues. What are these issues? Issues, when we look into the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, it's anything that is to do with the preparations before death. Now, sooner or later, everyone has to leave. Now, before we leave, we start wrapping up, we start winding, we start closing down, shutting down, and for that, we have to make preparations for our own akhirah. That is, whatever is being done, it should be done in a way that we are concluding and closing down. In tubdu ma fi anfusikum aw tukhfuhu yuhasibkum bihillah. Says that whatever you say, whatever you hide, all of that is being accounted by the Almighty Allah. Every little that I do, good or bad, all of that is being saved somewhere. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. The little that I would do, I would see the consequences of it in the hereafter. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. And the little evil or the bad that I would be doing, dharra means that smallest particle that anyone can ever think of. Now, from these little things is yelling and shouting also, that is also counted. For example, if the child, he takes something and he wants to take it to the kitchen, he hasn't got that ability to lift that dish. And on his way, on her way, she drops and it breaks. I have no right to yell at her, to shout at her. That yelling and shouting, it has consequences in her life, in my life. And both of them, they are dread. So here, مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. The little that I would do good, I would see it. مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Also I would see. So when we say أَكْرِمْنِي فِيهِ بِإِحْضَارِ الْمَسَائِلِ, Allah help me, dignify me in learning the issues, means that learning everything that is to do with the preparations of my demise, my departure from this abode that I am in. So in preparation towards that demise and that departure and transfer to barzakh, I have to be extra cautious. What do? قَرِّبْ فِيهِ وَسِيلَتِي إِلَيْكَ مِنْ بَيْنِ الْوَسَائِلِ. That Allah bring me closer to all these means that you have, and these means, these wasa'il that bring closer to you. So that is another dua that we ask. So means here in this dua may be the organs of the body that we have. So all these different organs in our body, they help. Eyes, for example, they help me read and recite Quran. So that is a means to getting closer to the Almighty God. Limbs, hands and legs, that help me in performing my wuzu and then help me in offering my prayers. So these limbs, they are helping me. So وَقَرِّبْ فِيهِ وَسِيلَتِي إِلَيْكَ مِنْ بَيْنِ الْوَسَائِلِ. Make me closer, closer my means to you from among the means. So all these are the means that Allah has given to me, that are with me, all my limbs, that help me get closer to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Even in Dua Kumail we do have these phrases where we say that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he prays that all these different organs and parts of my body that help me in getting closer to you, do you want to punish them, etc., etc. So he makes all my organs take instructions from him, the Almighty, and not to be in the service of Iblis. So these organs are his. He helps me give the tawfiq and the opportunity to be in his service. So this was this little dua that we have for this day. Now the dua that we have for tonight, that says, Ya mukawwir al-layla ala al-nahar, O you who winds the night over the day. Mukawwir al-nahar ala al-layl, who winds the day over the night. Ya alimu ya hakim, O all-knowing, O all-wise. Ya Rabb al-arbab, Lord of the Lords. Sayyid al-sadat, Master of Masters. La ilaha illa ant, there is no God but you. Ya aqraba ilayya min hablil warid, O he who is nearer to me than my own jugular vein. Then I say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, lakal asma'ul husna, to you belong the best names, wal amthalul ulya, and the loftiest of description, they are all yours. Wal kibriya wal ala, all the supremacy, all the blessings, all the bestowals, all the bounties, everything is yours. As'aluka an tusalliya ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I ask you to send salutations upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and taj'ala ismi fi hadhihi al-layla fi as-su'ada wa ruhi ma'a ash-shuhada, and that you place my name among those who are felicitous, among those who are successful and prosperous, and that my spirit be placed among the spirits of the shuhada. My good work be placed in Aliyeen. Aliyun is that highest and the loftiest of ranks that Allah has for mu'mineen. Says my actions be registered and recorded, saved over there. And then we say, wa isa'ati maghfura, and the wrong that I have done, Allah, all of that be my offenses, they be forgiven. Wa antahaba li yaqinan tubashiru bihi qalbi, and you give me a conviction, a yaqeen that will constantly be with me in my heart. Wa imanan yuzhibu shakka minni, and a faith you give me that dispels all doubts and shaks. Wa turdiyani bima qasamtali, and make me happy with whatever you have bestowed upon me. Wa atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana, good in this world, good in the akhirah, and protection from that blazing fire, painful fire of hell. And that you bless me, your remembrance, your gratitude, and then enthusiasm towards yourself, and repentance from all the sins and turning to you, and all that opportunity and tawfiq and everything that you have granted success to Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, all of that given to me. This was the dua that we have for tonight. Now we talked about belief in the Day of Judgment yesterday. Now Allah's creations, they are many, and the most magnificent and the greatest of Allah's blessings or creations is the Day of Judgment, is the Akhirah, Qiyamah. Or among the greatest of creations, it's the hell and the heaven. So none of them, no one has been checked in as yet. So whoever it is, he is in the Behesht or the hell, in the Barzakh, which is in this world, or is punished and detained in the Jahannam in Barzakh, which is again in this world. So that Jannat and Jahannam that we talk about in Quran and all these days and in these du'as, that Jannat and Jahannam, no one has checked into it as yet. It will be after the Day of Judgment they will check in. Allah in Quran says, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِّن نُطْفَةٍ ثُمَّ جَعَلَكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. He created you from dust. Then He created you from a drop of semen, a fluid. And then He made you mates, everything from that dirt and from this drop of semen, you are all made. وَمَا تَحْمِلُ مِنْ أُنْثَى وَلَا تَضَعُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمِهِ. No woman, no female conceives or delivers, but that it is, the knowledge of that is with the Almighty, with Him. وَمَا يُعَمَّرُ مِنْ مُعَمَّرٍ وَلَا يُنْقَصُ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ. Says no elderly person, he advances in his age, in his life, nor anything diminishes from the life of someone, but that also is recorded somewhere. That is also recorded in a book. In these A'mal of Laylatul Qadr, we all recited that this decree and that Qadr and that what has been designed and destined for us. So there is a book. In it, everything has been written. And what is to happen until the next year, it was just signed and approved by Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, who lives for how long and who does not, and when does he cease from existence. All of that has been recorded and has been measured and written. Inna dhalika ala Allahi yasir, says all of that is easy, very simple for Allah. Now these ayat, and when we see that how beautifully He has created everything in this grand creation, and the best of His creations, or the greatest, the grandest of His creation, they are the hell and the heaven. In one of the riwayat that we have from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, he to his companion Abu Dharr says that, Ya Abu Dharr, لو كان لرجل عمل 70 نبيا لاستقل ما عمله من شدة ما يرى يومئذ. If a man, if a person, if he had actions, not the actions of one random mu'min, says if he had actions, the actions of 70 prophets, when he sees the horror of the Day of Judgment, he would find that how little these actions are. And then he says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ دَلْوًا مِنْ غِسْلِينَ فِي مَطْلَعِ وَلَوْ أَنَّ دَلْوًا صُبَّ مِنْ غِسْلِينَ فِي مَطْلَعِ الشَّمْسِ لَغَلَتْ مِنْهُ جَمَاجِمُ مِنْ مَغْرِبِهَا. And then he says, if a bucket of ghislin is thrown on the east of this earth, those dwelling in the west, their brains, their heads, they will boil. وَلَوْ زَفَرَتْ جَهَنَّمْ زَفْرَةً لَمْ يَبْقَ مَلَكٌ مُقَرَّبٌ وَلَا نَبِيٌّ مُرْسَلٌ. And if Jahannam inhaled once, breathed once, Zafra, that is inhaling and exhaling, when you inhale and when you exhale. So if Jahannam exhales one, says no one will remain, no angel will remain, no prophet will remain, but that they will fall on to their knees and they would say to God, Rabbi nafsi, nafsi, God, me first, help me, help me. So much so that Prophet Ibrahim, to him, the dearest was Ishaq. He was blessed at a very old age. Their Prophet Ibrahim would say that Hatta yansa Ibrahim Ishaq. Prophet Ibrahim will forget his son Ishaq and say to Allah, Ya Rab, Ana Khaliluka Ibrahim fala tansani. God, I am your Khalil, your friend Ibrahim. Don't forget me not. Have mercy on me first. So he will forget his own son, his own dear son, who he longed and he prayed and he wished and was blessed at the age of 100 plus years, after waiting for a century. So the horror of the Day of Judgment is like that. And then the Prophet, he says, on the Day of Judgment, Ya Abu Dharr, لو أن امرأة من نساء أهل الجنة طلعت في السماء الدنيا في ليلة ظمآ. If one of the women of the heaven, if they appeared on the skies of this earth, says that on a dark night, the beauty of that lady and the noor of that lady will shine and enlighten the entire earth and this atmosphere much more than being lit by a full moon. And then says, if only one of her clothings, one of her dresses was shown on the skies of this earth, everyone will be unconscious at seeing the beauty of that attire, that dress that Allah has prepared for those inmates of the heaven. وَلَوْ أَنَّ ثَوْبًا مِنْ ثِيَابِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ, the dress, one of the dresses or the clothing or the attires of the inmates of the heaven was nushir al-yawm, was just shown on the skies of this dunya. لَالسَّائِقَ, everyone will be shocked. مِنْ وَيَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِ وَمَنْ حَمَلَتْهُ أَبْصَارُهُم. So no one will be able to see what beauty Allah has created for the inmates of the heaven. Now all these are these great creations of Allah, especially the hell and the heaven, the greatest of Allah's creation. Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha, he has a khutbah. He talks about this creation of ant. Says that if you look into this ant, if you ponder and see in that little tiny body of that ant, all that greatest of the might of Allah is seen. Says whatever you see in an elephant, in that huge big animal, all of that has been placed in that little ant. The ant has a trunk. The ant moves around. And if that ant was to be placed in the corner of your eye, Imam says you wouldn't be able to see the ant. It's that tiny. That tiny, and with all that beauty, that magnificence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, all of that, it is present in that ant. Says how this ant has been guided by the Almighty. In summer, how it works, for the winter, how it saves, and all the time it's working and busy. That little ant, that is one of the greatest of the creation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Now in this quote, Rasulullah, he said, وَلَوْ أَنَّ دَلْوًا صُبَّ مِنْ غِسْلِينَ, that is, if a bucket of ghislin, it's from ghasl. Ghasl, it's to wash. That when you wash your dishes or when you wash dirty clothes, there is all that dirt, filth, which is squeezed out of those dishes and from the clothes. When you collect all of that, that will be called ghislin. Or you can say in easier words, that what is being collected in the sewage, in the drains here, that is ghislin. Here says, if a bucket of ghislin, now this ghislin in Akhirah, it is made from the evil and the wrong of every sin, the wrong that I have done, the wrong that others have done. So all of them, they have a consequences, they have a form, they have an existence. Says all of that wrong that has taken place is ghislin. Now that ghislin, just one bucket of it, here if Allah throws it onto the east of this planet Earth, we living here in the west or the north, our heads, they would boil due to the heat and the bad smell of that ghislin. And then he says, if a drop of that was dropped into the oceans, in the waters of this world, just a drop of it. Now the waters, there are so many oceans, there are, and 70% of this planet is water. Says just a drop of that is dropped into the oceans, everyone will die due to the toxin and the poison that is created from that ghislin into the waters. Now all this is easy to understand for us nowadays, especially with this atomic bomb that was bombed on Japan, and instantly in just 60,000 people or 200,000 people, all of them, they died, they perished instantly. You can see the clips on YouTube, how in less than a few seconds everything just devastated. Now these are those man-made bombs Man-made bombs that can cause such a destruction. In the early days of this millennium, there was this tsunami. I was in London Heathrow traveling to America, and then the airport it was locked down, shut down, no flights. Because of that tsunami, they said that there was such a huge devastation, destruction, that they had to cancel all the flights globally. And then they said the GPS that they had created, it moved a fraction of a millimeter from whatever the calculations were. So everything just got messed up. And on the Sky TV that very moment, there was a live news broadcast. One of the scientists from Australia, he appeared on Sky News twice. Every 10-15 minutes, that was being repeated. And he said that the Americans, they had an underwater atomic bomb that was blasted there. They were doing some tests, as a result of which that huge big devastation took place in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and hundreds of thousands of people were killed. But that was only twice. They showed that, and then it was taken off air and never revealed again. Never was he present to say that. So these things they do. So all these are devastations done by human, by these tests and by these bombs they have created. Now that what Allah has for the akhirah, here he says, وَلَوْ صُبَّ دَلْوٌ مِّن غِسْلِينَ, just a bucket of that ghislin. Now whatever that is that might of Allah, and that is placed in the waters of this earth, everything will die due to that toxin and the bad smell of it. And Quran also has the same. Quran has on many ayat, just this surah that you were reciting, Suratul Haqqah, and the surah that was recited before, these surahs, if you just look into the meanings of the surahs, how beautifully Allah He has explained, and also talks about the right-winged and the left-winged, and how these amal will be presented to mankind. Some of them will be presented from the right, from the left, from behind one's head. All of this has been mentioned. And when you look into these ayat and see how beautiful they are, and how Allah has explained in just a few sentences the entire description of the akhirah. Now the beauty of these ayat is, when you recite the ayat that talk about the heaven and what is going to be given to you, and how you will be greeted and welcomed, you get hope, you get happy. And then when you talk about the azab, there you ask Allah to help. So here when it is praised, you have to be happy. When that horror is mentioned, you seek Him and you say, Al-Ghaus, Al-Ghaus, Khallisna min an-nari ya Rab. This is what the Ahlul Bayt have taught us. Now when you go on YouTube, all these clips that you have from Quran, even the reciters of the Suratul Haqqah, when he recites, I've come across many of them, even in Masjidul Haram I've seen them. When the ayat of Rahmah and the heaven, they are recited, they cry. Here when he talks about in Suratul Haqqah about Ashab al-Yamin, and how the Maymana, they will be given their accounts, the reciter, he cries. Now here you don't cry, you have to be happy, and you ask Allah that your statement of account be given to your right hand. And then when you talk about the left hand, there you ask Allah to help. That is how Ahlul Bayt have taught us. Now because they have disconnect from the Ahlul Bayt, from Rasulullah, they don't know. And that is why they cry. Maybe they cry because this Wahhabi lot, this Nasibi lot, they will never get to it. That's why they cry. So they deserve to cry. So here says that فَلَيْسَ لَهُ الْيَوْمَ هَاهُنَا حَمِيمٌ وَلَا طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ غِسْلِينَ. Quran says there he has not here a true friend, doesn't have a friend here in the Akhirah, nor any food except the refuse, which none but the wrongdoers they will be given, they will be fed. This is from Surah Haqqah. Now, the other term that Rasulullah used over here in this wasiyah, he said that فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ zafir وَلَوْ أَنَّ جَهَنَّمْ, if that Jahannam, if it exhaled, if it breathes. Quran says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ شَقُوا فَفِي النَّارِ لَهُمْ فِيهَا شَهِيقٌ وَالزَّفِيرٌ. As for those who are unhappy, they shall be in the fire. So when they shall be sighing and groaning, so Jahannam sighs, Jahannam groans, Jahannam breathes, inhales and exhales. And if you recall your memories, it was mentioned a few days ago that Jahannam is not a facility where people will be taken to be punished in there. But Jahannam is a creature, is a being. It says in Quran, وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمْ, like a wild animal, like a wild beast that is in leash, in chains. This wild creature will be brought to the scenes of Mahshar. And this breathing of Jahannam, inhaling and exhaling, says when he breathes out this creature, everything will devastate. And here when he says that the prophets, they will fell onto their knees, and Prophet Ibrahim would say that God, have mercy on me first. Ana khaliluka Ibrahim, fala tansani, forget me not. So this Jahannam is a creature, will be brought to the scenes of Mahshar. Now, in another hadith, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that once Jibreel comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, Jibreel was sad, very sad. Rasulullah says, why are you sad, Jibreel? Here he says, today the bellows of Jahannam were laid. The Prophet says, and what are the bellows of Jahannam? Jibreel says the fire was commanded by Allah to burn for 1,000 years. It burned and it turned red. It was commanded, instructed to burn for another 1,000 years. It turned white. It was instructed to burn for another 1,000 years, and it did until it turned black. And then he says, in that Jahannam that Allah has prepared, it is this blazing black fire that has been burning from thousands of years. And then he says, if just one of those blazes of Jahannam, if it is placed on this earth, and one blaze, the size of that is 70 feet, says with that just one blaze of Jahannam on the surface of this earth, the entire planet would melt due to the heat of that one blaze of Jahannam. And then he says that if Zaqqum, a drop of Zaqqum or Dhari, which is the food and the drink of those to whom the hell will be assigned, if it is dropped into the waters of this world, everyone would die of that bad smell. Now at seeing this, the Prophet, at hearing this from Jibreel, Rasulullah, he cried. He cried a lot. And then Allah sends the message to both of them, saying that, conveyed his salams, and saying that Allah will protect you and your nation from that horror, from that fire, from that zaqqum, from that dhari, as long as they do not contaminate themselves with the kaba'ir, with the major sins. So as long as they are away from sins, you are safe. And upon this, the Prophet, he got happy. So this is regarding the horror of the Day of Judgment. Now when we look into Quran, whenever this horror has been mentioned, immediately the beauty of Jannah has been mentioned. Because Rasulullah, he is Nazir and he is also Bashir. He gives you, he warns you, and at the same time he gives you the good news. So both of them have to be mentioned. Rasulullah, when he ascends to the skies, and there he comes to one of these one of the levels of the skies, and sees that there are angels who are making palaces. Says, لما أسري بي إلى السماء دخلت الجنة فرأيت فيها ملائكة. I entered the heaven, I saw some angels making a palace. يَبْنُونَ اللُّبْنَ مِنْ ذَهَبٍ وَلُبْنَةٌ مِنْ فِضَّةٍ. They are laying blocks of gold onto blocks of silver. أَمْسَكُوا, and they were working, but not working round the clock. Say they laid a block and they sat back, another block and they sat back. I said to Rasulullah that I said to the angel that why are they stopping? Why don't they continue and complete the building of that place? Here they said that فَقَالُوا, the angels replied, قَوْلُ الْمُؤْمِنِ فِي الدُّنْيَا, mu'min when he says Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar, فَإِذَا قَالَ بَنَيْنَا, when he says that once, we built. When he stops, we also stop. So in the construction material of our homes in the Akhirah is being sent from this dunya. So the bonding with all these recitals, azkar, ayat of Quran, all of that has that beautiful impact and effect in our lives here and in the hereafter. May Allah ease for every one of us our onward transfer to Barzakh and thereon to Qiyamah, and between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt, never ever come across a moment of separation. وَسُبْحَانَ رَبِّكَ رَبِّ الْعِزَّةِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى الْمُرْسَلِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.